The smoke rolled across the valley long before the flames appeared. Thick, gray, choking clouds drifting low between the pines, carrying the bitter smell of burning sap and dry leaves. Most people had already evacuated the mountain area, but one woman hadn't been so lucky. Clara Hayes had driven up that morning with her 8-month-old baby. Lily, hopping a short break in the trees would calm the restless child. The forest had always been Clara's place of peace. She didn't have much else. Not after her husband left, not after the bills stacked up, not after she moved into the tiny trailer on the outskirts of Hawk Ridge. But the forest didn't judge, didn't rush, didn't laugh at her small life. She had been sitting on a fallen log, feeding Lily mashed bananas, when the wind shifted. And everything changed. First came the smell, then came the crackling, then came the sky turning a terrifying, shimmering orange. By the time Clara realized what was happening, the dirt road she had driven in on had already been swallowed by fire. Her phone had no signal. Her car was surrounded by debris and falling branches. And the flames were moving faster than she could think. Clara grabbed Lily, held her tight against her chest, and ran in any direction that wasn't glowing orange. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking as she stumbled over roots and rocks. "Someone help." But no one answered. Miles away, on the high ridge overlooking the valley, a rancher named Colt Maddox pulled off his dust-covered gloves and smelled something unusual on the wind. Smoke. The scent hadn't come from his land. His ranch was bare, grazing territory stretching as far as the eye could see. Tens of thousands of acres his family had owned for generations, though Colt rarely spoke about his wealth. Money meant nothing to him compared to the responsibility that came with the land. He walked to the edge of the overlook. The valley below was engulfed in smoke. "Fire," he muttered, eyes narrowing, "too close." Colt didn't waste a second. He saddled his horse, Blaze, the fastest and most stubborn horse he'd ever raised. Within minutes, they were racing down the ridge toward the smoke. Colt wasn't a firefighter, but he'd grown up battling grass fires. He knew the land better than anyone, and he knew when something felt wrong. The wind was wrong. The fire was moving in a circle, not a line. It was trapping something or someone. Clara, meanwhile, fought her way through the choking smoke with Lily bundled against her. Her baby coughed weakly, whimpering, her tiny face pressed into Clara's shoulder. "It's okay, sweetheart," Clara whispered hoarsely. "Mama's here, Mama's here." Her legs burned, her throat burned, her eyes streamed tears she couldn't stop. She almost didn't hear the hoofbeats. At first she thought it was thunder, or her imagination breaking under fear, but the sound grew louder, fast, rhythmic, unmistakably strong. Clara turned shakily, expecting to see riders from the fire department. Instead, she saw one man, tall, broad, riding a massive horse that cut through the smoke like a creature born of fire and wind. He pulled the reins, stopping just a few feet from her. His hat was pulled low, but she could see his eyes, sharp, steady, focused, not panicked, not overwhelmed. Just determined. "You can't stay here," he said, voice deep and calm despite the danger. "This fire's turning. You've got minutes, maybe less." Clara held Lily tighter. I can't find the road." "That's because it's gone." He extended a hand toward her. "Give me the baby." Clara stepped back instinctively. "No." "I know," he said gently. "You don't trust me, but that fire won't wait for trust. I can get her out faster if I'm holding her. You ride behind me." The flames crackled closer, spitting embers at their feet. Clara looked down at Lily's frightened little face, then back at the stranger. He wasn't lying. He wasn't guessing. He knew. Clara placed the baby carefully into his arms. Colt held Lily as if she were something impossibly fragile, tucking her against his chest with surprising tenderness. He motioned for Clara to climb up behind him. "Hold on tight," he said, "and don't look back." She couldn't. Blaze bolted forward, hooves striking the earth in controlled, powerful rhythm. The fire swirled around them, glowing brighter the faster they moved. Clara pressed her forehead into Colt's back, gripping his coat, praying the horse wouldn't stumble. The wind shifted again. A wave of heat swept over them so strong Clara screamed. Colt leaned to the right, guiding the horse away from a blazing tree that crashed to the ground behind them. The sound thundered through the forest like an explosion. "How do you know where you're going?" she cried. "I grew up on this mountain," Colt shouted back. "There's a creek up ahead, fire won't jump it." "But what if it does?" "Then I'll ride you straight through the water." Lily began to cry loudly, her tiny body trembling in Colt's arms. He held her closer, whispering words Clara couldn't hear. When they reached the creek, it was almost dry from the long summer, but not dry enough to give up hope. Colt guided Blaze through the water, letting the shallow current cool the horse's legs. Once they were across, Clara looked back and saw fire swallowing the far bank. "You saved us," she whispered. Colt didn't respond. Not yet, he wasn't done. He rode another mile before stopping beneath an outcrop of stone, sheltered from wind and embers. Only then did he hand Lily back to Clara, who hugged her tightly. Colt jumped off the horse, checking the surrounding terrain. His jaw flexed with tension. "We're safe for now," he said. Clara sank to her knees, shaking, tears streaking her soot-covered cheeks. Lily cried against her chest. Colt crouched in front of her. "You hurt?" "And no," Clara stammered, "just scared." "Good," he said. "Means you're still thinking, can't think if you're gone." She let out a shaky laugh. "Who are you?" she finally asked. He hesitated. "Colt Maddox." Her breath caught. She had heard the name. Everyone had. Maddox, like Maddox Ranch. He nodded. "You own half the state." "No," he corrected quietly. "I'm responsible for half the state, big difference." She stared at him, stunned by his simple humility. "Why did you come down here?" she whispered. "You could have stayed safe on your land." Colt removed his hat, brushing ash off the brim. "When you've got this much land, you learn real fast what matters isn't what you own. It's who might be trapped on it." His eyes softened. "And you were trapped." Clara stood unsteadily. Colt reached out and steadied her, his warm hand wrapping around her forearm. She felt safe for the first time since the fire started, safer than she'd felt in years. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't have to thank me," Colt said. "Just stay with me until the fire crews get here." They waited under the stone ledge as smoke drifted past the ridge. Clara rocked Lily gently, singing in a trembling voice. Colt kept watch, silent, steady, a constant presence. An hour later, Clara finally allowed herself to look at him fully. His face smeared with soot, his hair damp with sweat, his shirt torn from brushing against branches, and yet he stood protectively close, ready for anything. "You didn't have to risk your life," she said softly. Colt looked at her, something deep and unreadable flickering in his eyes. "I didn't risk it," he replied. "I used it." "Why?" For the first time, Colt seemed unsure of what to say. So he simply answered the truth. "Because no woman should ever have to run from fire alone. Not in my valley, not anywhere." Clara swallowed hard, emotion tightening her throat. "Colt, I don't even know how to repay." "You already did," he whispered, "when you trusted me with your baby." The silence between them warmed, softened, shifted. When the rescue trucks finally arrived and the last embers died down, Clara turned to Colt one more time. "Will I see you again?" she asked. Colt wiped ash from her cheek with a gentle thumb. "You will," he said quietly, "not because you owe me anything, but because I want to make sure you're okay." Clara held Lily close and nodded. And as Colt Maddox watched her walk toward safety, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, something he thought fire had burned out of him long ago. Hoping. A hope that this wasn't the end of the story between a single mom, her baby, and the cowboy who saved them.